Welcome to this video series on how ecosystems work. This will be a video series of 3 videos. This is video 1. In video 1, we'll be talking about 3 learning targets. First, give examples applying the first and second laws of thermodynamics. Compare and contrast food chains, food webs, and energy flow through systems, and describe and quantify trophic levels in ecosystems. We'll start out with some basic definitions. First of all, ecology. Ecology is the study of interactions among organisms and between organisms and their abiotic environments. With ecology, the focus can be very local, or it can be larger scale, even up to global. Ecology is inherently interdisciplinary. We need to bring into account things about the geosciences, physics, and chemistry as we think about the biological aspects of ecology. Now, a definition of ecosystems. Ecosystems are a community and its physical environment. So we'll start out by talking about the first and second laws of thermodynamics. First of all, the first law is that energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can change form. And here we see an example with this organism, a great blue heron, who's eating a fish, and he's going to use the energy that he receives from that food to do work, so to fly or to move or to do more fishing and hunting. But he is not creating or destroying energy, he's just changing the form of it. In the second law of thermodynamics, we understand that when energy changes form, some of it is converted to heat. And that is because no energy transition is ever 100% efficient. And so over time, there is less energy available to do work. Here we can think about the concept of entropy as well. Entropy measures the disorder of a system. When we think about ecosystems, we think about the various levels within ecosystems. First, we'll talk about producers. Producers are those organisms that produce large organic molecules from simple inorganic substances. And these are potential foods for other organisms. Things like plants, algae, and some bacteria are considered producers. Here we see examples of some photosynthetic producers. So we see kelp and corn and some algae and some grape plants, all of which are producing that food for other organisms through photosynthesis. Within ecosystems, we also have consumers, and consumers are at various levels. The first level is called the primary consumers. Those are organisms that eat producers. So we have things like herbivores, shown here by the grasshopper who's eating the leaf, the cow who's eating the grass, and plankton that eat algae. The next level is secondary consumers. Secondary consumers eat primary consumers. So here we see the frog eating the insect, we see the mouse eating a small insect, and we see a fish. We also have higher levels of consumers, such as tertiary consumers, and those typically eat higher level or secondary consumers. So we've got an eagle eating a fish, we've got a dolphin who also eats fish, and we have a lion who's captured some prey. Moving now to decomposers. Decomposers are organisms that break down dead organisms and waste products. These are things like bacteria or fungi or earthworms. As they do this, they release those simple inorganic molecules that can then be reused by producers later. So turning now to energy flow in ecosystems, we need to think more broadly about food chains and trophic levels, and food webs. So here we see a very simple food chain which describes this linear pathway through which energy flows in the form of food from the producers to the different levels of consumers. So here we see a python, the tertiary consumer, who has eaten a frog, a secondary consumer, who has eaten a grasshopper, a primary consumer, who has eaten grass, which is the producer. And each organism in the food chain represents a different trophic level. Food webs are simply multiple food chains that all live together within an ecosystem. So when we get to the ecosystem level and we're talking about a food web, we can think about the way energy flows through that food web. So here we have a marine food web primarily, and over on the right side, we see our primary producers. So that would be the algae and other things that are living within the water column. And those are going to be eaten by the primary consumers. So we have some plankton and other small organisms that are living within the water column. Those would be eaten by the secondary consumers. So we have some small fish here that are eating those plankton, but we also have some whales, very large consumers, that are eating the primary consumers, and then some tertiary consumers, things like tuna and other fish that feed on smaller fish, maybe sharks as well. But also included in this ecosystem food web are tertiary consumers such as seagulls and, of course, us, way up here. Well, I think we've done a pretty good dive into the simple ideas about ecology and ecosystems, and so we're ready for a review of our learning targets and our mastery check quiz. So give these a look over. I can give examples applying the first and second laws of thermodynamics. I can compare and contrast food chains, food webs, and energy flow through systems, and I can describe the trophic levels in ecosystems. See you in class.